Hey, this is Aaron Walker, founder of View from the Top. You're listening to On Faith's Edge with Joe Taylor.
Hey, man, I got free will. God's given me free will to do what I want to do. I want to do what He has prescribed in the Bible to live a more fruitful life.
Hey, thanks for the introduction, Big A. Aaron Walker is a highly successful business person, coach, and mentor. I really like this guy, and I loved talking to him. You can't be around Aaron and just not feel better about yourself and about life and about the path you're headed. If you get a chance, spend some time with Aaron Walker. You will not regret hanging out with this guy. He was a guest on episode 57 at onfaithsedge.com/57. That's onfaithsedge.com/57. Go back and listen to it. Well, welcome to the 108th episode of On Faith's Edge. My name is Joe Taylor, recovering atheist and your servant in Jesus Christ. This is your place to hear conversations about God and living a life of faith in Jesus Christ. I love hearing from interesting people who have traveled an interesting path. That's why I invited today's guest, Craig Colquitt, to tell a story. Craig is a two-time Super Bowl champion with the scars, aches, and pains to prove it. Today you'll hear about how his path to God started with a vision as a child, why he turned from God as a teenager, how he lived his faith and failed his faith as a professional football player, and finally, what brought him to his most recent project, a children's book, JoJo, What Happened to Your Hair? And I'll be very honest with you. I'm a big Cincinnati Bengals fan here in the Cincinnati area. There are three things I hate in this world. Third is green peppers. Second is the St. Louis Cardinals. And first is Pittsburgh Steelers. Nothing against you, brother, but my gosh. And you know, the problem is you guys just find a way to win. You come from a true sports dynasty.
That's funny. That's a great start. I'm 63 years old, and I get to live in the past every day. You know, I meet Steeler lovers and Steeler haters, and it's like you said. When the Immaculate Reception happened, I think that's 72. The wheels began to turn in Pittsburgh. And we did. When I was playing, we found a way to win, but it just seemed like we dominated. And when I talk to folks, they either want to talk to me or they'll talk because they hate me. They said, you know, I just hate the Steelers. I'm sorry. I said, I get that. I said, I'm tired of Tom Brady. I'm glad this Super Bowl flipped on him. So, you know, I go into that.
Well, the problem is
fatigue.
The problem is the even modern day Steelers. You always feel like they're in it. You always feel like they're in it. That's why, same thing with the St. Louis Cardinals. Well-run organization, good player picks, great coaching, and my gosh, the Pittsburgh Steelers just find a way to win, and I hate it.
Well, people ask me if I'm a Steeler fan. I said no. I got a Denver Bronco, now a Brown, and used to be a Chief. And Dustin's been with the Chiefs, has been there for 13 years, and they have not beaten the Chiefs. And it's always come down to a Hail Mary from Roethlisberger. Antonio Brown is amazing.
Yeah.
So you just see it happen. But yeah, I get that. I mean, I love my black and gold, but
for crying out loud, will somebody please tackle Roethlisberger? It drives me nuts, dude.
He's a big boy, and big boys can slither away.
Yeah, just shake you off. Yeah. Well, you're a punter. 2 Super Bowl rings, 7 years with the Pittsburgh Steelers. What can a professional punter teach us anything about life?
If you want to learn anything from me, I've been through the business world. I've been a drastic, desperate sinner, and here I am now wanting to live the way I'm designed, created in God's image. So my belief is delight in the Lord, and He'll give you the desires of your heart. And that's not optimism, thinking if something goes bad, oh God, what'd you do? It's literally, I delight in looking out the window I'm doing right now and what He's given me, gifts for all of us. And so I'm reinventing myself, being creative like He is, trying to understand in His image to enjoy my life. So that's punter philosophy.
How does someone go from NFL player with 2 Super Bowl rings with the Pittsburgh Steelers to a marketing executive to an author and illustrator of JoJo, What Happened to Your Hair?
Yeah, it is a lot if you think about it. But I played at the University of Tennessee, and Steelers having Super Bowl rings, they're kind of like the perfect stage prop to have Super Bowl rings. And I've never met a stranger. So working in sales was a natural gyration for me. I did not graduate from college. I'm very limited on my education. I had to go the route of sales, went through a lot of job changes so I could see my sons grow up. I was actually in real estate. Real estate's a tough way to make a living, but I wasn't seeing the kids grow. So I had to go back into something, and met some guys that were big University of Tennessee fans and joined up with them, and I used that connection, and we ended up building with other companies, one of the largest cleaning companies in the country. And I was fortunate. I was a stockholder, but it was. I'm out of that now, and I'm kind of flexing my mind muscles now because my body hurts too much to use it. So through all I've learned in those experiences, now I'm wanting to do like JoJo, What Happened to Your Hair? It's a reconnect with my family that I spend a lot of time on the road. And so now with the grandkids, I'm watching them, and it's helping me create art, I call it, which is a children's book. It is definitely an art, the illustration, the writing, and wanting to put it out there for the public. And meeting people like Danielle Hart, who's the marketing director, is interesting. So I get to meet Joe Taylor and talk about these things. But it's about my faith, too.
Tell us about your newest project, JoJo, What Happened to Your Hair? It's a children's book.
It is. And my 5th grandchild, I was out at Denver. He and I were having breakfast. He's about 4 years old at that time. I'm going on 4. And we'd eaten breakfast. We're playing with Legos. And I got up to get coffee. And out of the blue, he said, JoJo, what happened to your hair? JoJo is my grandfather's name. I'm not Papa, Granddad, all that. I didn't want to be formal. And kind of took me by surprise and mentioned it to Britton, who's the punter at that time for the Broncos. And he said, Dad, it's just a kid. And I'm going, well, he's not offending me. There's an idea there. So 2.5 years later, I'm not working. I'm being creative. I'm working on drawings and paintings. And I want to develop this idea of JoJo, what happened to your hair? And use that question and make it a children's book. And if you look at the book, it's a whimsical way of the various ways that I could have lost my hair. For example, wearing a football helmet. When I took it off and put it on, took it off, it wore my hair off. And I'm telling this to the grandkids, and they're all going, no, JoJo, that's not what happened to your hair. And at the end of the book, I tell them it's genetics through drawings. I draw my father, his father, his father, his father, all the way back to 1790, even with their clothes.
Well, so far it's been well received, Craig. The book is endorsed by Terry Bradshaw, Tony Dungy, and other prominent people. Why is this book so significant?
It's the reinvention of me. I mean, I'll use the word relevant. We can age and go out to pasture, or we can age and plow the pasture and be a light for other folks. I spoke at a Fellowship of Christian Athletes fundraiser the other day, and I was in front of them. We talked about JoJo. We laughed about, I decided to look like Terry Bradshaw and Tony Dungy. It got a laugh like you've got now. I've used it for years, but now, Terry's saying, sure, I'll endorse the book. Tony says that. Paul Rudd, actor, Paul Rudd, the actor's got a full head of hair, but he's a dyed in the wool Kansas City Chiefs fan, Royals fan, and he loves creativity. So this has been able to reinvent myself. I've always kind of drawn and doodled, but I want to show folks you can do this too. Don't sit on your laurels and get old and talk about your faith. So it's a mouthful, but it's been such a joy to be received like you're receiving me today.
Why was it important for you to write this book, Craig?
I failed at a marriage, and I didn't want to fail as a grandfather and a father. I wanted them to be able to still see that I've pulled up my bootstraps, believed what I read in the Bible and what I'm talking about, and I'm going forward. And I'm meeting lots of folks that feel guilt and rejection. And, they made bad decisions too. But I said, God chose Moses, David, Paul. If you look at their history, man, that's some desperate activity those people had. But look at what it's done for us 2,000, 3,000 years later.
And all severely flawed men.
Severely flawed. I mean, look at Paul. I mean, he's killing Christians, and the next thing you know, he's the leader. He's the one that built our philosophy, God-inspired way to live our lives. Yeah. So it's wonderful.
David's an adulterer and a murderer. Moses didn't want to do a darn thing God asked him to do.
And he killed an Egyptian, So
right.
Yeah, bad guys.
So God can use all of us, can he?
He can.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's the beauty of it, and just accept what's happened and move forward.
What do you hope that kids particularly take away from JoJo, What Happened to Your Hair?
I've got 9 grandkids, so that's a test market right there on this book.
No doubt.
And one of the grandkids that I really like to communicate with, he's 9 years old. He didn't know I was watching him read the book, and he's laughing and giggling and taking his time through that whole book. And that told me that I reached him through the colors, what could whimsically happen to my hair. So it's a kind of a voice, accept what you see in other people and desire to communicate with them, because in the end, the book says love is what we're all about. So let's love one another like we want to be loved. So that's the book. It's not specifically reaching the Christian philosophy and element, but it is reaching out to promote family and communication.
So this was your first commercial creative product. Is that right, Craig?
I actually did some drawings years ago, but that was a failure. I introduced it at the University of Tennessee as an art piece commemorating history at Tennessee. I call it Tennessee Timepiece, and the football team went 0-6. So it flopped. But yes, this book it's an investment. I'm spending money to put this out into the market. So it is really a significant investment of time and money. And I want it to be impactful. And 100 years from now, I hope somebody looks at it and goes, my great-great-grandfather did this.
What did you learn about yourself while writing JoJo, What Happened to Your Hair?
I have a kind of a convoluted way of wanting to desperately please people and be accepted. I want to put me out there as much as possible, sincerely as possible, to basically do unto others as I want them to do unto me.
Greg, how did you come to believe in Jesus Christ?
I was born again when I was 5 years old. And I tell this infrequently. I saw an image in my yard when I'm playing in the sand, and I heard my name said like I've never heard it said. And I'm young. I'm 5 years old. I've been participating in Bible Sunday school, or what's it called, Vacation Bible School, and heard this voice, saw an image, and the image left as soon as I saw it. And I ran inside, told Mom. She called the preacher. Preacher came over and heard the story, and he said, that's the daydreams of a child. And I remember him saying that clear as a bell, but I saw what I saw. But it literally defeated me because who knows where that could have taken me had he said, wow, this is awesome. If he had said the opposite. So that's word to the wise there. Listen to the children. And that's another thing about the book. I listen very closely to my grandchildren because they are searching. So at 5, born again, but when I heard that, I just kind of let things go. I had a brother killed in a car accident when I was 13. So I took the position, there's no God. This is random opportunity to live. But I was brought up Christian, pretty decent kid out throughout high school, but after high school just fell off the train. It was nothing but parties for 2 years, 20 years of age, and I needed to do something. So I decided to walk on at the University of Tennessee and needed to get away from the alcohol and the drug problems, but I get to the university and it's worse. Didn't flow well with those folks, got into the pros. And actually in the pros, I was a lot slower than I was in college. Still had my faith, met beautiful people like Tony Dungy to support me. And then I met my wife, and we decided to build a family and raise them up the way we had been raised. Fast forward over the years, boys got into the football, and that transitioned into the pros. And then I got into business, and that turned into being an entertainer with unlimited funds to entertain. And that became a problem. The more money you have with problems, those problems are going to be a whole lot more significant. And I'm testimony to that.
Yeah, money doesn't change you. Money just makes you more of what you already are.
That's profound, yes, and I am testimony to that. So, really had a lot of problem with alcohol. I mean, it's an easy tool in business to build business as an entertainer. So, and I'm a weak individual. My brain goes to want people to be happy with me. I want them to like me, and that's not a good personality to live with, especially with alcohol. So alcohol was a problem. Business was good. I did well enough, and I'm not proud to say this, but I'll say that I'm able to take care of their mother. So she's financially in good hands. I'm doing okay, but I'm rebuilding everything. So I am the prodigal old man. Like I said, I'm back, and I still am a cynic. I still have my doubts because I have a physical body. Until I'm in heaven, I'll still think like that. And I think God wants us to be that way. I think he wants us to question, because it strengthens us. It strengthens me because I go, when I'm a skeptic or a cynic and I doubt, then I go, hey, man, I got free will. God's given me free will to do what I want to do. I want to do what he has prescribed in the Bible to live a more fruitful life. That's what Jesus said. So there's my testimony.
So you said at about 13 years old, because of your brother's death, is that right?
Yes.
You turned your back on faith, and for all intents and purposes, as much of a logical, reasonable decision a 13-year-old can make, decided that there was no God and that this is all just by chance. At what point from that moment on, at what point did you give your life back to God and start believing again?
It wasn't until I married. I was, kind of hit and miss, kind of like a passing magnet. There's the connection. I'd be drawn in, but then I'd want to go back to the flesh and live the way I wanted to. But with the wife, she was, we were equally yoked for a long, long time. Unfortunately, 30 years and it ends. But during that time, I was finding out who I am and all those financial struggles that the spiritual side of me wanted to serve. And I was involved with Fellowship of Christian Athletes, with my church, with the local food pantry where the homeless people are everywhere. And I was able to even teach a class to homeless folks. Boy, that's interesting. That's a book in itself. But as business came along, it got back to what you and I just said, that the money thing reignited the problems that money can generate in people who have problems in the first place. And I'm that people that money could get me what I wanted. And my leaders, the guys I worked with, said, spend it. We want the business. So I went for it.
As a Christian businessman, have you ever had a time where it was you thought it was okay to set aside your principles of faith for the sake of a sale, for the sake of a deal, for the sake of efficiency, or did you ever feel like it was okay to kind of set aside your principles of faith?
To drink alcohol, and I'm a teetotaler. I'm not going to give you a hard time about your personal practice. I just need to be enlightened. But yeah, when I look back on it, the alcohol, when it got in me, it was separating me from God right there. And if I am letting somebody have whatever they want at company expense, then I've compromised who I am. And there were people in my business that didn't compromise. They stayed the course, and I saw those things, but, I was more living on the edge. And when I say compromise, I didn't lie, cheat, or steal. But yeah, I guess I did, because I'm compromising my principles, my Christian principles.
You spent 7 years in the NFL. Were you a Christian during those years?
Yes. First 2 years, I was single. So single money, professional football, it opens a huge Pandora's box. I was so grateful to God when I met my wife, because I'm going, this is where I want to be. And that changed everything for me. So the last 5 years were productive years. In a lot of regards, as far as my Christian faith.
Are you still connected to the league now?
Yes. The league's a lot more sensitive to the physical needs of players, with the concussions and dramatic injuries. So there's a lot of programs going on now that weren't going on 5 years ago. So yeah, they're even sent out something about JoJo, what happened to your hair recently. And I'm going to Pittsburgh the end of May to be on Cornerstone TV, which is in Pittsburgh. And the Steelers really like that kind of thing. So yeah, I want to be connected. It's not easy because everybody's in different cities, because I chose to go back to Tennessee, but very much connected as much as I can be, or need to be, especially with having two sons in the NFL.
What was the faith culture of the NFL back then?
A lot of inspiration there. We prayed before the game. We prayed after the game. So it was a good environment in that regard. But on an individual basis, my character lacked. And that's where the money was caused problems, because I could do what I wanted to do.
What do you regret most about those years in the NFL, or those years as a marketing executive, when it comes to expressing your faith?
Well, as a married man, I was faithful all those years. Still am. I'm not interested in that thing. But backing up, even not in high school, but in college and in my first 2 years in the pros, I wish I had respected women the way I should have. Like they're my mankind, my brother too. They're hurting, they're looking as well, but it was just part of the nature to go to that physical exploitation. So I regret that. I didn't have daughters growing up. I'm glad I didn't. That would have been really tough to see even the way relationships are today. It's scary what I see today, especially on the internet and relations and what I read earlier. So that's a guilt that I have individually prayed now, and that's an understanding I have. Each thing I feel that was my sin, and if that memory comes back to it, I ask God to forgive me for that when it comes back. And it's amazing relief because I am in earnest. That's a regret that my sisters, I didn't treat them with greater respect.
Craig, finally, as we wrap up, what would you say to that person that is right on faith's edge, making that choice to believe or not to believe in God?
The overwhelming thing I hear folks say, if there was a God, he wouldn't let the world be the way it is. Well, I tell them the beauty of this world is its free will. We get to choose what we want, how we want to live. There is no better roadmap than the Bible on how to live. Yeah, there's a lot of scary things in there, murder and wiping out thousands and tens of thousands of people. But the overriding guidepost in the Bible is the way to go. So if you're on the edge, pray constantly. Philippians 4:6-8 is how I live my life. Paul has told us how to live. Don't be anxious. He starts that off. We're all anxious. I talked to an elementary school the other day, and it's amazing. It was 200 kids in this one setting. It's amazing how the elementaries were really taking the Fellowship of Christian Athletes in. I said to them, are any of you all nervous or scared? Every one of them raised their hands. So that's free will. We live in that. And if you pray to God and ask it, you will find that eureka moment, that connection to that spirituality, which is freely given to us. So plunge in.
Well, I don't think we can say anything more than that. Craig Colquitt, thank you so much for being with us today. The book is JoJo, What Happened to Your Hair, and a whimsical, cool message. This looks to be a good one. Thank you, Craig.
Thanks, Joe. I really appreciate it.
Craig's website is craigcolquitt.com. That's CraigColquitt.com, craigcolquitt.com. And JoJo, What Happened to Your Hair, is available right now on Amazon.com. These links and his other links can be found in today's show notes at onfaithsedge.com/108. That's onfaithsedge.com/108. And if you want to interact with me, I am most active on Twitter at @4JoeTaylor. That's at FORJOETAYLOR. Or you can contact me at onfaithsedge.com/contact. I love bringing you engaging conversations about faith. If this show entertains you, encourages you, informs you, or brings value to you in any way whatsoever, will you consider financially backing the show by using any Amazon link at onfaithsedge.com? We'll get a modest commission from the purchase, but it doesn't cost you a penny more. Well, that'll wrap up today's show. Thank you to Craig Colquitt for being with us, and thank you for listening. You mean a lot to me, and you mean a lot to this show. Remember, God is real, He loves you, and so do I. God bless.
Thank you for listening to On Faith's Edge. You can subscribe to the show via iTunes, Stitcher Internet Radio, or your favorite podcast app on Android, Apple, or Windows devices. To reach out to Joe or leave comments about the show, visit onfaithsedge.com. You're important to us, and we would love to hear from you.